She reminds us to claim our deepest selves, our own goodness, to know and value our own gifts, to give them freely in love. She reminds us that just like the moon, we're changeable, we can transform, the world can be flexible. She reminds us of our own sovereignty, our spiritual sovereignty. We can claim it fearlessly.
Welcome to the In Her Image podcast, where we seek and celebrate Mother God through scriptures, scholarship, mythology, the arts, and everyday life. Today, I am happy to once again have a wonderful friend on here with me, and her name is Melonie Cannon. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So Melanie is, I honestly don't even remember the first time I met you.
I just remember you came up to me and was like, I think we are related.
Totally, which we are related.
We are. We found out we were.
So we are both friends and cousins, somewhat distant, maybe third or fourth or fifth, somewhere in there. But we both come through the Cannon line, and we've had a number of interactions. We've had a number of times that we've been together and had some beautiful experiences together. And I just have loved getting to know her better and feeling of her spirit. And just, I have been in such awe of her connection to the divine and to the mother. And so I wanted to have her on because one of the things that I have been really impressed by with her is just the way that she exudes this connection to the mother, to the divine feminine.
That's so sweet.
And you can just see that she just lives it. She has this relationship where I just feel like you and the divine feminine are like besties. Like you just know each other and you are connected. And in some of our experiences where we were talking in the past, I just remember her kind of talking about how so many women feel like they need to study and find her in books. And if they don't look for her here and there, then they can't know her. And we were actually, I think, out in nature at this time, and her just saying, they don't realize, that she's all around us. She's in the water, she's in the grasses, she's in the breeze, like she's just all around us. And I love that. I have felt that very much myself as well. And while it can be so good and interesting to study and to research and to find some interesting connections that can maybe help us learn cognitively about her, I think sometimes we can put too much emphasis and get caught in that cognition instead of in the experience of coming to know someone personally and recognizing that our divine parents are all around us and that their arms are open for us to know them. And sometimes we just have to open our eyes to see.
Well, we can just end the podcast right here. That was so beautifully put. And that's about sums it up for me. So
well, and and a lot of our episodes recently some of them have been more cognitive, right? Like we're talking about history and we're talking about symbology and these different things. And so I was like, we need to break it up. And I really wanted to bring Melanie on because, again, she's just such a good example.
Well, I'm not a scholar, so I am perfect for that.
Of knowing what it means to experience the divine and to worship the divine in all the different ways around us. And she has some tools that she's going to talk to us about as well that have helped her to be able to connect and to worship and to access the divine as we can in our daily life at all times. And so I will start now with a little more formal bio because it's very interesting. And then we'll jump more into the conversation that I'm excited to have with her. So Melonie Cannon considers herself a modern-day mystic combined with a Christian Gnostic doing shamanic work. Basically, a jack of all trades. She received her Master's of Education from the University of Utah and was an English teacher before becoming a mom of 4 wonderfuls. For the last 19 years, she has been on the Segala Literary Magazine staff, featuring LDS women authors and artists, and is currently the poetry editor. Besides writing, her passions include pilgrimages, art, reading, and natural healing modalities. She is a sacred sound healing practitioner with focus on the drum, rhythm, voice, and vibration. She makes artisan drums under her company Moonstone Drums, which they are incredible. And in fact, she had one of these drums in was it Heavenly Parents or Heavenly Mother exhibit? I think that one was Heavenly Parents, wasn't it?
Down in Provo, it was it was Heavenly Parents because it was a masculine feminine. Lindy Mott painted the front and I made the back with a trio of life.
Totally.
Combined came two different leathers together.
Her drums are incredible, and I even got to bang that one, which felt very, very special. And Melanie is certified in hypnotherapy, sound healing, voice, somatics, and breathwork. Currently, she's finishing up her PhD in theology and metaphysics, which I didn't know, so this is so fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to put that out there so I can finish.
Motivation. With an emphasis in sound and vibrational healing to further help women to connect to the divine within themselves. And she likes bees. Lots of bees.
I do.
So I'm wearing bee earrings today in honor of her love of bees.
Appreciate
and
that.
I love bees too, but I'm excited. Perhaps we'll talk even more about that as well.
I hope we get to it. Yeah.
This is so fun. I just loved reading this professional bio because we have had a lot of interactions and experiences together, but getting to know even more about your background was so delightful. And is there anything else that
you're a poet too, I found out too, and I didn't know that about you.
Thank you. I like to write.
Amazing.
But
we have the same DNA, I tell you, but we do.
Literally. I bet our ancestors are just looking down in delight watching us together today.
I hope so.
So is there anything else that you would like to share before we dive in about who
you've shared so much.
Okay.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, and I appreciate the encouragement and confidence in me.
Absolutely. I have full confidence. So on that note, I guess we will dive in to this conversation. I know you have so much to share with us about some of the tools you use in these different things, but I would love to start by getting a basic idea of your journey with coming to know Heavenly Mother more and how your relationship with Heavenly Mother started and how it's grown and changed. And I know that's a really big question.
It is a big question, but it's good. And I think about if my life's a tapestry and I'm supposed to follow the one red thread back, and kind of pull it on it a little bit to try to remember where it began. Where was the first tie? I can't. It's like, how do I find that first beginning? But I remember some things. I've always been drawn to spiritual things very early in my life, drawn to nature. I was kind of a hyper-vigilant, gentle, timid child. I don't know how else to explain that, but I loved being in a safe place in nature. Nature also frightened me a little, like big things like the ocean or deep, dark forests, probably from studying fairy tales a lot when I was reading all the time. But I also felt very connected there. I'm very much an earthy kind of a girl. And when I was about 12, I had my patriarchal blessing. It was literally like 2 weeks after I turned 12. And Brother Skousen, kudos to him. So this is like 1981. And he actually said, like, you are a cherished daughter of Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. And so I think in 1991, that was pretty rare.
Yeah.
And it was an acknowledgement of her. And I think I craved spiritual things in my life. I craved it. So from a very early age, I was questioning everything and thinking about things. And where do you go? You go to the libraries. I mean, there was no internet. So I went to the library a lot, like East Mill Creek Library in Utah, just did not hold a lot of spiritual books. But I read everything on the supernatural I could find. And these connections, I knew that I have never had a problem with God existing because of my experiences. But I did have a problem with how I was being taught about God, because that's like my soul knew there was something different. And I kind of got angry. I think from about 13 on, I was a pretty angry person. And I think you do sometimes go through those stages when your soul isn't aligning up exactly with the system of organized religion that you're born into or taught. And I got angry. And I remember my husband when he goes, "You're so angry." I'm like, "Yes, I am. What are you
That's so
going to do
interesting
about
because you don't
it?"
seem very angry at all anymore,
I'm not.
knowing you.
I'm not.
Uh,
But I was at the time. I was angry at the dysfunction in my home. I was angry at the hypocrisy. I think I entered the world with a very deep sense of integrity and honesty and justice. And my expectations were everyone was supposed to meet my level of what I thought those meant. So it's kind of an arrogant place to be, actually. When I reflect back on those teenage years, I think I was kind of a little rebel, little angry rebel.
hmm.
And I think it was hard on my teachers, but I realized that besides going outward in study, I had to go inward. And at the library, you could rent records. So I rented things like past life regression records and a lot of guru meditation, like things from India. My little sister, she was 6 at the time. We have a 6-year age difference. She said she remembers at 6 years old, I was making her meditate with a candle, and I
What?
put on a record. So I was 12, and I was like, "Just sit here and focus on the candle and the light, and we'll put on this will be a guide." It was a guided meditation. So I'm already at that age doing stuff like that. And about 13 years old is the first time I sat up out of my body. My spirit sat up and looked back on my body. And I became fully aware that my conscious could exist outside of my body at that moment.
Mm.
And I think at that point, so I have to give a little foundation for that. I've always been able to know that this is just kind of a soul chariot that I was in, and that there were vastly beautiful experiences waiting for me, visionary experiences, talking to those that have passed on, seeing all sorts of beings from the other side, receiving messages in animal symbols and talking to stones and trees. And I think people will think I'm nuts. But this is who I was as a child and a teen. And I'm finally coming out and talking about it. I kind of thought everyone had these experiences, but they just didn't talk about it.
Mm.
And so I kind of just kept silent. I probably always kept kind of silent about it. Sometimes, people closest to me know.
Yeah.
So my first dream about Heavenly Mother was very vivid. A door opened up and I went into this huge white room, and it was so white. It kind of glowed and it was shaped like an egg. And so I was inside of this beautiful egg, white egg. And I heard a voice say, "Your mother wants to speak with you." And I woke up. So I realized at that time I had really been neglecting that relationship because honestly, I had become quite a Christ focused Jesus freak, as I would say to my kids. But I realized that was an important part. Even though I had focused on Mother Nature, I had kind of left her behind with my focus on Christ.
So, around what age was that for you?
I would say that was probably, let's see, I had my first child at 29. So I would say right around that time when I started becoming a mom.
Hmm.
That was very significant for me because I felt this connection to Mary and that feminine embodiment of creation was one of the most beautiful experiences. And even though
Yeah.
it was hard, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, it was all a piece of cake. It was, oh, I just couldn't believe this creation inside my own body. It was so glorious. And by then, there were more things available. A lot of books, the internet was coming out. So I was able to get books and study and think about things beyond the books that I had been raised with.
And the Mill Creek
Um,
Library.
in the Creek Library. Yes. And started traveling more. My junior year, I studied at the University of Florence in Italy, studied Italian literature, and really opening a whole new world of what it's like to experience beauty and art on a totally different level. And what does that mean for me as a woman? And what can I bring and create and bring into the world. All these thoughts were going on.
That after you had that experience where you felt that message of your mother wants to speak with you, did you immediately then begin seeking her in a different way or seeing her in a different way? Was there an immediate shift, and what did that look like?
That looked like talking to her.
Hmm.
So, okay, let me give a little foundation here. I think you have belief and faith, and sometimes what we're really looking for is the next step, which is direct experience. And then from direct experience, that is supposed to lead to transformation in my mind. So with Christ, my relationship with Christ definitely had belief, definitely had faith, but I wanted direct experience. And so I sought it diligently, very diligently, like through prayer, through talking, walk. As my nephew calls it, you're going on your Christ walk. Yes, I'm going
Mm.
on my Christ. When I'm driving in the car, I literally would clear the seat next to me and, with my sacred imagination, invite him to sit with me. What radio station you want to listen to, Lord? Okay, here we go. And people might not understand that, and they might think that is not how we should respect him. But I found that he loved it, and I loved it because I got to know and understand for the first time in my life that Christ was a whole being with a personality. He wasn't far away from me. He literally understood me and loved me. I had this one meditation that reminds me where I was going through a hard time, and he came up. I met him on the beach, and he comes up to me and he lifts his hand under my chin and lifts my face up, and he's like, "How you doing, Mel?" I'm like, "I'm having a rough time." And he goes, "That's because you don't see you as I see you."
Mm.
And I know that that relationship with Christ was a foundational part for how to experience the Divine Mother. I was on a Christ walk. I had just had a horrible experience with a member of my family, and I was really angry and wanting to know what to do. So I went on this walk up at my grandparents' cabin to get some insight on what to do. So I was walking with the Lord, and I was like, "Lord, I want the gift of charity so I can deal with this situation. Please give me the gift of charity." And he was like, "You don't know what you're asking." And I'm like, "No, I do. I know what I'm asking." Because if you know me, I always argue with him, with the divine, always. That is my pattern. And he's like, "No, you really don't know what you're asking. And it's not my place to give the gift." And I was like, "Well, what?" He's like, "But I know someone who it is." And he introduced me to Heavenly Mother. And I had a very, very profound experience for the next half hour. I received blessing and word from her. And I asked her a question after that half hour, and she said, I can't answer that question for you, but I know someone who would." And she introduced me to God Father, who answered my question briefly and about laid me flat on the ground. But I saw this beautiful connection and relationship. It was a gift given to me at that day of how they work together.
Absolutely. What an incredible gift to be able to have such an intimate experience of being able to ask and receive answers, and to be able to feel like you are coming to know them individually even more. And I love the way you describe that.
It takes time though, Jessica. It's not like, oh, that happened immediately. It takes
Mhm.
concerted effort, but the most important thing is to trust. To trust what you're hearing, that you're not crazy. I call it crazy town. You're not crazy town. Like it really, you're like, wait, that couldn't have come from me. And to start trusting the voice and then discerning the voice and understanding. And everyone has different gifts. I mean, I think we all have them all, but some are stronger than others. But knowing what your gifts are and working with that to connect with the divine,
Mhm.
working with it.
Right.
And, all your other gifts will start opening up. You have to trust yourself and trust what you've been given. That's the key belief.
Yeah. And I love the beautiful example that you were given too of this unity, right? I mean, there's no competition between those three. It's just
Oh, not at all.
equality and partnership and unity and love, right? That one saying, well, I can't answer this, but here, meet your mom.
Yeah.
And here, talk to your father. And there's just that beautiful image of unity and love.
Yeah. You've got a holy team waiting for you to call on, then you might be introduced to Mary Magdalene or different people that um, are needed in your life, like for your journey. Everyone has different journeys.
So, is there anything else that you want to share about that journey for you of growth in your relationship with the divine, with Heavenly Mother and your divine parents? I know that you have found so many different ways to connect with the divine. Okay.
Besides meditation, which we all can do, I had this experience in 2000, and my beautiful friend Marty, who's passed away, she really helped me with this. 2008, she approached me and was like, I think we're supposed to have this circle of women dancing like prayer dancing and worship dancing. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So well, I was at the library actually, which is funny. I was at
I
the
love
Pleasant Grove
that.
Library. She was like, I think you're supposed to come. And I'm like, I'll have to pray about that and talk to God about that. I don't know. That sounds a little far fetched for me. And as I'm on the phone with her, because she said, well, it's kind of based around bees and honeycomb. This is what I'm getting from God. And I'm like, okay. And I'm walking down an aisle and a book falls on the ground in front of me out of the bookshelf. And it's The Secret Life of Bees.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, wait a minute. That must be a sign, right? I mean, how does that happen? And then I walked out to my car and there was a bee right on my windshield and it sat on my windshield the whole way home. And so bees started coming into my life and I agreed to be part of this. And it was secret because we're all LDS women and we don't want to be known to gather and trying something completely new, right?
Not
It would be
approved.
looked down upon, not approved, not approved.
Yeah.
But we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew we wanted to try to use our bodies in a way that had never been used before for us. What we didn't know is this is a very ancient tradition of circle dancing. And we just felt guided to do it. And we studied Hebrew dancing. I mean, think of Miriam with her tambourine and dancing
Mm.
with women.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really an inspiration for us. And these ancient Hebrew dances, where they're circle dances, and they're very basic movements, but they were focused on Heavenly Mother and Christ and God. And different songs had different focuses, but we usually had someone who would create the dance, and then we would circle and dance. It was amazing. And we call it the honeycomb.
Mm.
And we had a little meal, a sacred meal before that was definitely, we felt revelation was given about what to have. And part of that was homemade bread and rosehip tea and honey and hand churned butter.
Mm.
And there were lessons for all of that. But that really opened my spirit to a different way of worshiping and connecting. It was so scary at first because I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But we leaned into the fear and just trusted. And from that moment, bees became kind of a focus that way spiritually. And I've learned a lot about the symbolism of bees and the study of bees. And this is what led me, I felt like I've got to become a beekeeper. So I became a
Mm.
beekeeper. At the same time, I started doing sound healing and started this draw to the drum. What I didn't know is that this is a very ancient tradition. Bees, bee priestesses, and drummers I had no idea at the time. And we can talk more about that if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Share at least a little bit more, because I'm sure that plenty of people are going to be like, wait, what? Tell me more
Yeah,
about.
what? What's that? You will find many ancient statues, vases, symbols in the ancient world. They're unearthing so many that have women holding a drum. And one of the studies has been with the Melissa. It's Melissa with an AE on the end. And the Melissa bee priestesses were a group of women who were the spiritual leaders in their community. So they worshiped Artemis. They had sacred rites that they did. They were at births and deaths and rituals. The bee priestesses drummed. They were deeply connected with the drum. And because the drum can put us in altered states of consciousness, and they were connected to the rhythms of the earth, just like bees are. So I felt like there was an ancient tradition that I was resurrecting and I didn't even know.
Mm.
And one of the studies I did was Layne Redmond's book, When the Drummers Were Women. I would recommend. It is incredible. And she recognized that drumming was an ancient source of female power. They were the technicians of the sacred. And drumming eventually came into man's hands and became used to support war,
Yeah.
where it used to be an instrument that supported all these beautiful sacred things. And women are reclaiming the drum back. And in some cultures now, it's exclusively masculine, but it was not. The suppression of women and the goddess is directly linked to the time when the drum also lost its place in the hands of women.
And changed from being a tool of worship to a tool of war.
To a tool of war, yes. I think about Sybil. You usually will see ancient statues of Sybil, and she's holding an tympanum or tympanum, and it's a hand drum, and it signifies her power and the power of creation. So the drum is such an amazing instrument as a symbol for creation. You've got a round circle like a womb. Usually with a drum beater, you have a phallic symbol, and they come together with this resonance, right? So it's a symbol of creation. It's a beautiful feminine symbol, and it looks like the moon, the symbol of all women.
Oh, okay. So you talked about them being bee priestesses. And how did the bee play into that worship or into the symbology or the work of the priestesses?
That's a really good question. So the bee priestesses, they ran the hives. So they helped gather the honey. They used the honey in their rituals. So whether that was in temples, sacred groves, the women would gather to drum, and they would use the honey mead and honey in their rituals. You can look this up. Just look up bee priestesses. They were also those that anointed the king and anointed him with honey. So let's talk about Asenath for a minute. And the Lost Gospel is a story of Joseph and Asenath, but it was written a lot later, and they believe it was a symbol of Christ and Mary Magdalene and their story. But Asenath has this experience where Joseph comes to her and he's like, you're not who I need you to be. You don't worship the one God. You live in this tower and another woman of the tower, and you need to change if I'm going to marry you. So he leaves, and she has this complete change in experience. And part of that was bees. She was covered with bees, and honey was poured into her mouth. And she has this experience. In a meditation, I was awake. I had this dream, and then I didn't know about Asenath until I read the book later, The Lost Gospel. I really wanted to meet Heavenly Mother. I really wanted to see her. So the kids were all gone. Everyone was gone for many hours during this one day. And I was like, I am going into meditation. I'm going deep. And I had this experience. Of course, it takes some time, but I was really trying to focus. And earlier in the day out of my beehives, I saw a bee that the thorax was gone, but it still had its wings and the upper part of its body. And it was on the little landing of the hive. And the bees came out and cleaned it and brought it in.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that had an effect on my meditation, but I didn't know at the time. So I was in deep meditation, and suddenly I was a bee. And I was sitting on that little landing right as you go into the hive. And I became really, really small, like a little bee. And the bees came out and circled around me and were cleaning me. That's what bees do, they clean each other off. And I was brought into the hive, and I was like, I just want to meet the mother bee. I want to meet
Hmm.
Heavenly Mother. I want to meet her. And they're like, you're not prepared. But they opened my chest and they cleaned out all the area around my heart, and then they packed it with honey. And then a woman came, she was half bee, half woman, and she came and she had this carafe and she poured this liquid gold honey into my mouth. And they were like, now you're ready. And then they just started lifting me up. And I'm flying through this hive, and it looks kind of, I don't know how if you're like Star Trek or something, but it kind of looked like inside the Borg cube, but it was a honeycomb. It was all these, of course, hexagons everywhere. And I was just rising up through, and I knew I was going to meet Heavenly Mother. Except I was stopped, and there was this beautiful black man. He was so beautiful, and what he was wearing. And he had to ask me some questions. And I guess I answered him okay because I got able to rise through. And then I saw this ginormous queen bee. And she was, minky blankets, how soft they are. She just laid me right on her belly in the black and gold bar of her belly and just embraced me. And she was, of course, symbolic of my Heavenly Mother.
Hmm.
And then I had some experiences after that where she took me through the cosmos. And I got to ask her questions about creation and how does it work? And she literally put me in her womb space. She was made up of stars, and the earth was in her womb space. And then she put me in there, and then I felt all the vastness of those that are going to come after me through my own womb, and all the mothers that I was a part of, and that she was a part of. And even here, she is vast as the cosmos, and she is inside another. It was the most amazing experience and meditation. And I'll just kind of end with that because I asked certain questions and she showed me certain things. That was probably my most profound experience with Heavenly Mother and the Divine Feminine.
I love hearing these beautiful, beautiful stories. It makes me think about how we have these scriptures, right, that are filled with men's experiences, visionary experiences with the divine. And yet there are women who are having and have had visionary experiences where they are able to see the creation, where they're able to kind of see the vastness of the cosmos, where they're able to ask questions and receive answers, and just how beautiful it is to embrace that and to recognize that we are just as connected, just as powerful, just as able to receive.
We are. I love that so much, Jessica, because we have been in a tradition that's so afraid, and as women in general, we're so afraid of asking and moving forward and trusting. But this is open to everyone. We are divine beings as well. Some things that she's taught me is that she is in me and I am in her, especially with that experience.
Hmm.
And creation is what I try to do every day in some way because I embody her.
Hmm.
My life is about creation. Whether I cook a dinner for my family, I'm going to create something new. As my husband said, I don't think I've had the same thing for dinner in our entire
That sounds exhausting. It sounds fun and also very exhausting.
It was, yeah. That's been limited lately as they've aged, but it's a form of creation, right,
Mhm.
for me. And so in anything I do, I think about her. Like, where is she today? Who am I going to interact with today where I can embody her? So I'm walking through the Walmart line. Give me guidance. What do you want me to say to the person who's checking me out here? And And I just had that a few weeks ago. A woman, I was like, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Tell her this, that she's mourning her son. Give her a hug. This is love, and it's form of creation. Relationships are also a form of creation. Well, even if they're brief relationships for just a moment." So I think that's one thing she's really taught me. She's taught me that the world is kind of being destroyed by the unbalanced masculine vision and practice.
Hmm.
The feminine force has not completely entered into the world because of the suppression, and it's been watered down, it's been strangled. But she is returning in power and glory. And I must say, the women who are younger, I'm getting closer to 60, shall we say. And I'm so stunned by the women and their voices and the fearlessness. My generation had more fear, for sure. And I love that embodiment of her is coming in such a beautiful way in the younger
Hmm.
generation, too. So I think she's taught me that through her, there's going to be radical transformation. Women have the possibility to give birth and bring things into this world, and she is birthing a new way of being into the world. And we need to stop playing small
Yeah.
and just reassess the beliefs of our fathers and what we want to take with us. My daughter the other day chopped up my apple tree.
Oh.
Just went, I couldn't believe it. I went out and it's just like down to nothing, just really the core, the trunk, and a few things coming off it. And I came home and I was like, "What did you do?" And she was like, "Well, it's unbalanced. See how the weight of it's going this way." And she's studied a lot of plants. She loves plants. And she's like, "So I needed to chop all of this off so we can get apples, and we need to give it strength and move it to this side. The weight needs to be over here." She wanted to balance the tree.
Hmm.
And I thought about the symbolism of that. What do we need to cut off in order to have new growth and bring fruit? There are so many things that we need to prune. And we need to have growth that maintains the belief that God is all male and all female. We need to bring sacred feminine and its practices into every aspect of the physical world. It needs to stop being just in the spiritual realm and come into the physical.
Hmm.
How do I do that? Meditation, drumming, chanting, dancing, being out in nature, connecting, building altars with stone. These are things you can do to make it physical for yourself. And also an awareness to everything you do, an awareness to your cooking, an awareness to hugging, an awareness when you are making love with your spouse. How can you bring that conscious, energetic, beautiful, sacred, divine masculine, feminine together? And Christ and Mary Magdalene, I'm a believer that they were married. The editing of that story is probably one of the greatest tragedies of humankind. But I think in it lies the key to healing the world.
Hmm.
Because the church claims to have been the restored gospel, but in my opinion, it has missed the mark, because the restored gospel isn't about patriarchal systems and hierarchy and exclusive male access to mystical truth. It's not social constructs. It's just like the tables that Christ turned. I think he came to turn the world on its head by including women, honoring women, using women as disciples and messengers and teachers. He brought the truth of that at one moment with one another and with God. And to me, that's the restored gospel.
Hmm. Beautiful. There's so much. I'm like, "Ooh, I, like, wanna go back and ask about this and that."
I know.
Um
I'm like a bee. I go from flower to flower to flower to flower. I know it's hard for me to remain on one flower.
No, I love it. There's so much richness and so much depth. I think maybe I'll start by going back. You talked about these different ways that you can connect with the divine. You talked about things like meditation and being able to experience it in your body as well, right? And drumming
Mhm.
and dancing and just having a greater awareness. And I love the way that you talked about being intentional with our abilities to create, and that can be creating moments of connection. It can be creating a meal. It can be creating all of these different things, which is beautiful because not everyone has the gift to create things like the drums that you create, right? or maybe some people don't feel like they have the ability to create poetry or whatever it may be, but every person has ways that they can be creative, even if it's writing an essay, if it is cooking, if it is creating laughter, creating
Oh, that's
relationships,
beautiful.
creating gatherings, right, of friends. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many different ways that we can be creators. But when you talk about some of these other things that may be less familiar to people,
Okay.
like talking about the dancing and drumming and
Yes.
these different things, if someone is hearing that and they're like, how do I even engage in that? How do I even begin to think about doing those things and using dance and something like that to worship, to connect with the divine, to connect with the divine within me? What would you say? What suggestions and advice would you give to someone who's hearing this and saying, what? I don't know anybody who
Yeah.
does this. How do I do this?
Well, first they need to call me and I'll come over. No.
She lives in
But
Utah, unfortunately, for any of you outside of you.
okay, that's a big question. So let's start. I just took a portrait class for 12 weeks because I was like, I want to learn how to draw. Can't even hardly do a stick figure. But the first thing when we got to class, she said, draw a circle. That's the beginning, right? That's the womb space. And I was so like, oh, draw a circle, of course. So I would say to those who are beginning, how do you begin? You draw a circle. And what I mean by that metaphorically is you take a step into something you're drawn to, because it wouldn't be inside of you if the mother didn't give it to you to explore. It's a remembering. So if you want to dance and you're drawn to that, I know you have a song that you love and you listen to it in the radio and you sing. And I'm not talking, about Queen or something like that. I'm talking about a song that goes to the deepest part of your soul and you feel light from it. So you put that on and you're alone in your house and let go. Take deep breaths into your body and step and raise your arms up and be willing to say, God, Goddess, I am here. I am open. I am an open receptacle to whatever you want to give me. And I'm going to give you from my heart and move and dance with that. It's taking the first step.
Well, and so it could just be any song that you feel deeply to.
Any song. That's a first step for dance and combining dance, worship, and prayer. Now, let's take gardening, for example. You feel drawn to create something from the ground. Would it be so hard between your corn and your zucchini and pumpkins to plant something that's dedicated to Heavenly Mother and to make a connection there? Say, what do you want me to plant, Mother, that will be in honor of you, that I can see grow and give me lessons about who you are and your character? Teach me these things. Get my hands in the dirt. Mother Nature, you are there. You are there. So that could be something. Another thing is voice, singing. People are like, I can't sing. You don't have to be good at it. I sing in my car. I just start singing my heart and my story, my day. I sing to them. I sing to her and say, this is what I'm feeling. Guide me. Help me with my child. I have this issue and please guide me. And somehow singing opens that throat chakra and opens up something beautiful. It opens up your ears too, so you can hear back. Those are some examples.
I love that. It's so beautiful thinking about these different ways of incorporating worship into any of our daily tasks, right? Where it's like gardening. I never would have thought to incorporate worship into that and to decide to plant something that very intentionally will draw your mind to the divine. And like you're saying, that you can learn lessons through, or as you are caring for it, it just becomes a more intentional form of almost prayer, right? Anytime that you
Yes,
tend to it,
absolutely.
of thinking about and meditating upon the divine and being open in conversation or in your thoughts to the divine. and what they could teach you in
Absolutely.
that moment.
And you could go on a prayer run every once in a while, Jessica. I know you run, but I don't know if you do a prayer run, for example, where you say,
Sometimes.
yeah, you're like,
Yes.
I'm dedicating this
Yeah.
run to
Mm.
this focus, to this connection, and help me see something that I haven't seen before that will teach me about you.
And I've had that happen, and it is beautiful.
Because that's one of your connections, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about
Mhm.
that.
Well, even just this last week when I was on a trail, and I've been making a lot of decisions lately, and some of them are kind of hard decisions. And I have had a personal experience in the past with the Divine Mother in a meditation as well, where she gave me a gift. And that gift was a spiraling shell. When she first gave it to me, I was a little confused because I didn't
Mhm.
exactly understand why she was giving it to me. And then afterwards, I started looking into the symbolism of that and realizing that it was the exact gift that I needed. And that gift has shown up for me at times when I've been on the trail and hiking or running and asking those questions about what I should do, including when I was deciding if I should do this podcast. When I was asked to, contribute and be a co-host, and I had decided to do it, but still, so there's that part of you that's wondering, is this really what I'm supposed to do right now? It's vulnerable. It's a big
Very.
change. It's different. It's hard. And on that run, I had been deciding where to go, and I changed where I decided to go very last minute, and I just felt to go to this other spot. And as I was kind of having these conversations with the divine on that run, I came across all of these little white spiraling shells. And I picked one up, and my first thought was how much my daughter would love this. And I
Mm.
thought, oh, I want to take one of these home to my daughter. And as soon as I had that thought, I had the thought from my Heavenly Mother that was, you are thinking about this as a gift for your daughter, but this is my gift to you right now. And knowing that all that symbolism that I had learned as she'd given me that gift before in that meditation, she was reinforcing that to me in that moment, that those choices I was making to expand myself, to do something new, to keep growing and expanding in that way spiritually, was that she was celebrating me in that she was supporting me in it. And I had that same experience happen within the last week as I've been continuing to make decisions and was out on the trail. And so, as you're saying, running is one way that I have intentionally done so on those hikes and runs. But thinking about these other examples that you are giving, where it can become so much more than that, where I can do things intentionally when I am doing yard work, which I don't necessarily usually do, or moving with our bodies. And I know that we have done some kind of drumming things together as well and just singing together. But being more intentional and thoughtful and creative and thinking about in our daily life, what do I feel drawn to? And how can I intentionally draw the divine into that more, perhaps?
I love what you just said because they do give us gifts, and that brings it into the physical world too. And there's a word in drumming called entrainment, probably in music. I know it's in music as well, where say you have multiple metronomes, for example, that are going different speeds. And if you sit them next to each other, then they start moving at the same. Have you heard of this?
No.
They move at the same. Like you can put a bunch of grandfather clocks all doing different times, and then they start swinging together at the same time. You can look this up.
How interesting. I mean, I know about that in like the natural world, for example, with fireflies and such, that creatures that flash light and
Uh-huh.
they over time will come in unison. But that's so interesting. I hadn't heard about that in things like
Yeah.
clocks and
Yeah, and metronomes, yeah.
mechanical metronomes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so I think that once we start entraining ourselves with God, then these kind of beautiful synchronicities happen. And in drumming, like if you have a drum circle, everyone will come in different brain wavelengths. And they've tested this. When they leave, they're entrained, and they leave at the same brain wavelength. They become entrained with one another. And when you start entraining yourself with the rhythms of God and nature and Heavenly Mother is part of that, something shifts and awareness happens in your life, and you start noticing white shells, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You start noticing these things, and an entrainment happens, and you become, I call it the hollow bone. You become a vessel for their work on the world in everything you do with your family, whatever your sphere of influence is. I think about that entrainment with nature, what you were talking about too, and all the rhythms. Rhythms are a part of me, and I've become very aware of them because of the drum. So the rising of the water in the tree, you have the morning call of the birds. These are rhythms. Bees foraging. You start listening. You know how a river makes that certain sound through the rocks. These repetitive parts of nature, the moon and its beautiful transitions. All these things are rhythms we can connect to. And as women, we understand rhythms innately in our bodies. We are a walking rhythm, like because
Right.
of our cycle. We understand that. So if you want to pick up an instrument, anybody who has a heartbeat can play the drum. It starts opening you in a way I can't explain. It's so beautiful. I've had such miraculous experiences with people and women who are like, what is happening to me when I play this drum? And like, it's a remembering that happens within certain women. Well, I think within anyone who can pick up a drum and start playing, but they say, something's opening and changing me. Why am I called? Why do I have to have a drum? I'm just not, this is not supposed to be. No, it always was. It's the primal part of you. We mimic the sounds of nature. We mimic the rhythms of her creation. So, Jessica, rhythm is a means of organizing sound into very specific energy formulas, I guess you would say. It harmonizes the mind and the body, and we can do that even with voice. So if someone wants to even do tones like vowel toning, like even if you're just, say, washing the dishes, and you're just like, I'm going to just try to put into the physical world what's in my heart. And even if that's like, and you're just doing something like that, it is a way to the spiritual part of yourself, which is connected to God. So with that, there is a song that I heard a long time ago called My Mother's Savage Daughter. And it talked about being angry. It's kind of a rage song that a lot of feminist women, I'm a feminist, so it's not that's not a bad thing, but it's a rage song that people use to express anger. And it talks about cursing the earth that they walk on and the stones and kicking them. And I was like, that is just not, I want to take that song and I want to change it. How can I do that? So I took the words. Some of them remained the same, but some I changed. So I want to sing that with the drum. And I don't know, I'm hoping the drum will come through. And I don't claim to be a singer, and I don't care.
I love that.
I used to care a lot and not use my voice, but I'm using my voice today and I'm using it. I've made a lot of drums, probably over 150 drums, but this drum I received from a Native American man, and I know its voice, it knows me, and I call it my shamanic drum.
Hmm.
I am my mother's holy daughter, the one who runs barefoot, blessing the earth. I am my mother's holy daughter. I will honor her heart. I will become her voice. My mother's child is a seer. She looks for her omens in the colors of stones, in the face of the sky, in the fall of feathers, in the flickering of fire, in the curve of old bones. I am my mother's holy daughter, the one who runs barefoot, healing the earth. I am my mother's holy daughter. I will honor her heart. I will become her voice. My mother's child brings light in darkness. She sings sacred songs by the light of the moon, and watches the stars and renames the planets, and dreams she can reach them with a wish and her tune. I am my mother's holy daughter, the one who runs barefoot, blessing the earth. I am my mother's holy daughter. I will honor her heart. I will become her voice. My mother's child drums as waves of the ocean, through water and fire, brown earth and the air. As above, so below, she spins in spirit, stamping her feet and throwing her hair. I am my mother's holy daughter, the one who runs barefoot, healing the earth. I am my mother's holy daughter. I will honor her heart. I will become her voice. We are all brought forth out of darkness and water, brought into this world through blood and through pain, and deep in our bones the old songs are waking, so sing them with voices of thunder and rain. We are our mother's holy daughters, the ones who run barefoot, blessing the earth. We are our mother's holy daughters. We will honor her heart. We are one with her voice. I've heard people say there is no mother, this earth made only by the hand of a man. But I see her face in every flower, in the smell of the forest, in the curve of the land. And when my spirit rises to meet her, leaving the imprints of my life behind, I'll fly to her arms, headlong and wild. In her soft words, all the answers I'll find. She'll say, you are your mother's holy daughter, the one who ran barefoot, blessing the earth. You are your mother's holy daughter. You honored my heart. You were one with my voice.
So beautiful, Melanie. And you are a beautiful singer.
Thank you. To me, that song, it's just some change of words, but the intention behind it is to honor our Heavenly Mother and to know that we can drum light and song into the land. Every step we take as women is sacred on the earth. And my hope is that things will change so that women's bodies can be seen as sacred again, that women will be acknowledged, that their power of our Divine Mother will flow through us, and we can restore what's been lost.
Oh, so beautiful. I think what's so beautiful too is how, regardless of what happens in other institutions, whatever it may be, that I feel like you have borne testimony throughout this conversation, borne witness of how there's nothing that can keep the power of the Divine Mother from flowing through us.
Nothing. She reminds us to claim our deepest selves, our own goodness, to know and value our own gifts, to give them freely in love. She reminds us that just like the moon, we're changeable, we can transform, the world can be flexible. She reminds us of our own sovereignty, our spiritual sovereignty. We can claim it fearlessly.
Absolutely. And I just love that song and the way it expressed honoring the heart of the Divine Mother and her voice, being one with her voice. And I love that image at the very end, how it kind of changes and shifts throughout the song, but how at the end it's that reunion, that more visible reunion of hearing her words back to us, of that you have honored my heart and you've been one with my voice. I thank you so much for sharing your experiences and that witness of how we can throughout our daily lives in all these different ways honor the Divine Mother and honor her power within us as women.
Yes. And that's what we're doing here. We're using our voice, and may
Yes.
please help it to be her voice coming through. Please.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We are in her image, after all.
Is there anything else that you would love to leave us with before we go?
My ultimate deep love of God, I wish you could feel in my voice. I know that Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father love us so deeply. They are nothing to be feared. They want to be intimately acquainted with you. They want to have a deep relationship with you and go boldly and fearlessly into their realm. You are already there. You just have to go deep inside.
Mm.
It's there. Just a reminder and a remembering.
Yeah. And I thank you for your example as well of removing the walls of expectation and what we see as like socially, we've been trained that only certain things are worshipful or that only certain things are acceptable. And I just love that example of even when you talk about listening to that music and just letting everything go and just being willing to move our bodies or being willing to vocalize these things that we have pushed down in our society, that there's only this very limited acceptable way to behave, and that anything else is not natural. Or but honestly, sometimes we feel these feelings within ourselves that we want to sing, that we want to dance, and that we silence
Mm.
or that we want to worship in whatever way, and just trusting ourselves and our bodies that we can put down those walls of
One of the first steps
expectation.
I did was open my eyes when I was praying. I mean, I was taught this. It's so closed off. And one of the first things I did to change my way was open my eyes and open my hands and it's such a simple way of opening yourself. Even posture can change and
Mm,
connect us. Something as simple as that.
yeah. Well, thank you, Melanie. I have delighted in our conversation together, and I feel like it'll provide so much food for thought and so many different ideas for people that may
I
open
hope
them up
so.
to
I hope
possibilities.
so. Thanks for going flower to flower to flower with me. There's so much in the world to explore. It's so
Uh,
exciting and beautiful. I'm so glad I'm a woman. I'm so glad that I'm connected and have such a deep foundational love of the divine that was given to me and gifted to me. So go ask for your gifts. Jessica, I'd love to give a little meditation recording to you that your listeners can listen to later at their own time. I would love that if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We talked in the past about Melanie possibly providing something experiential for us to have on the podcast if someone wanted to afterwards be able to sit and just meditate and maybe have an experience. And so we will have just a little mini additional episode so that you can enjoy that as well. That gift from Melanie.
I would love that. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for anyone who's listening. You, you can reach out to me. I'm around. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I would love that if you have any questions or want to talk.
We will put the links to our Instagram. If you are wanting to share other ways that they can contact you, we'll put all of that in the show notes. So that's where you can find that as well.
Okay.
So you can connect with her. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, we invite you to come on over to patreon.com/inherimagepodcast for more content and community. You will have opportunities to participate in Q&A sessions, quarterly book clubs, access to a Marco Polo or Facebook group chat with our hosts, and the insider scoop on events, meetups, and retreats. We're so excited to meet you. And of course, tune in next Sunday for another inspiring episode.